Josh Johnson's Unusual Objects. Not Josh Johnson, the comedian, but Josh Johnson, the jazz saxophonist. Josh Johnson has been involved with lots of different side projects as a sought-after session musician saxophonist. On his debut album, really cut his teeth as a band leader, like a very classic idea of a saxophone band leader. This is not that on this album. He really, despite having such sort of a classical approach to jazz in that first debut album, this one is really much more experimental. It is him all by himself on saxophone, literally a solo album, but using pedals and effects to append his sound. Now, we've already seen saxophone players playing with technology to expand the sounds of their instruments. We start talking about Colin Stetson. A couple of his albums have come up recently, and we're looking at one of them this year in our showdowns. But Josh Johnson's approach is a little bit different. And you have to kind of maybe refer back to the post that I put up earlier this year about jazz vocabulary and ambient music, right? If you start talking about Colin Stetson, it's difficult for me to listen to that and really call it jazz because, he's doing stuff on saxophone, but there's not a whole lot of the classic idea of jazz vocabulary on it. It really gets into ambient realms. But this album by Josh Johnson is clearly a jazz album because his engagement with the jazz vocabulary is, from the very beginning, super clear. It sounds like he's playing jazz. He's using jazz licks, blues riffs, 2-5-1 progressions, reinvented melodies, all this stuff that really identifies what a jazz solo sounds like. That's the basis of what he's playing. And he's taking that very clear jazz vocabulary and using all these effects to append it to where, he has harmonizations and he has loops and he's got, drum beats that he sampled that goes along with it, and takes all that sort of classic idea of jazz and pares it down to something that's also very clearly very modern and very relevant in the way that it uses current day technology.